Hello and welcome to this edition of Tips and Tricks. Now today I'm going to be talking a little bit about setting your drag. Now the first thing you got to remember is when you pull on your drag at the reel, it's going to come off a lot easier than it is at the end of the rod with the rod tip bent. There's more friction with the rod bent, there's more pressure on the thing, so it'll go out a lot harder up there than it will right in front of your reel. So what I like to do with these to make sure I have it set right is I'll take an old hook and I'll hook it to a piece of wood or something that won't move, and then I will reel down, get the line tight, and set the hook a bunch of times. And when I set the hook, I want to make sure that a little bit of line goes off when I set the hook, just enough to relieve the pressure, so if it is stopped, and a lot of times when you get a bigger bass or a bass is going away from you and you set the hook, it feels like it's basically against something solid that's not moving. But when you do that and you set the hook and you get that little bit of line to go out, you're making sure that you're not going to bust your line on a hook set of a bigger bass or a bass that's heading away from you. So that's sort of the way I go about setting the drag. And then when I'm fighting the fish with the baitcaster, since I have it up high enough that not much drag is going to go out while the line is bent. But if the fish decides to go on a run, most bass don't go on really big runs, maybe 5-10 feet. When it goes on a run, I aim the rod towards them. When I aim the rod towards them, that line's able to go out a lot easier off the reel, and let them go until they decide to turn, and then pick back up on them and keep fighting them with your rod tip up. So that's how I go about setting my drag on the baitcaster. And of course it'll be different compared to which weights you're using and everything else, but it's just a good basic way to go about setting your drag on a baitcaster. Now when it comes to a spinning reel, I set it totally different. I set it so light that the line can go out really easily when the rod's bent in half. And that's because usually with the spinning reel, I have this set up for stripers at the beach, or I often fish for carp with it, or catfish, things that have a tendency to make long runs, 30, 40 feet. I mean, they really take off. And if you do like you do on the baitcaster and have it so it goes out easy when you're pointing at them, you don't really have any control. But when your line's up and your rod tip's up and it's going out pretty easily, you can easily go to the right or go to the left, and you have control on where to try to get that fish to go. Say it's heading into something you don't want it to go into, or just anything to get it so you can turn it. And it's a lot easier to do when your rod tip's up and the drag's going out than if your rod's straight at him, you really don't have much control at all. And so that's the way I go about it. And if I do get a fish and I have the rod tip up and it's pulling just not much drag out, I will quickly loosen up so it can really get some freedom to run, and run pretty easily. There's still pressure on it, but run easy enough that it can tire itself out and I can still have control on it. So that's just a little bit of basics of how I go about setting drag on a baitcaster and a spinning reel. Because it's basically the worst feeling ever to get a hit, get a good fish, go to set the hook, and snap the line because your drag's too tight that when that rod got bent, anyway, it felt easy at the reel, it didn't go out easy at the tip, and you end up breaking off the fish. So let's give it a try. Some basics for setting your drag on a baitcaster and a spinning reel. I hope this helps. Until next time. Oh, okay, maybe it wasn't that big. Still a nice fish though. Jeez.